Just want to try and put a small film together for people out there that appreciate machinery. I want to go over this in a little bit more detail. This is my MG40 made by Ransomes, 1962. I found this in a barn and I recovered it with a chain pulley, because obviously it didn't run, it sat there for years, probably 30 years, and now I've restored it to an oily rag restoration, which means it's not been painted, but it runs and mechanically it's sound. I've replaced anything that needs replacing, including the exhaust. I made the exhaust brackets here so that the exhaust fitted nicely. Single piston 600cc crank started engine. Now there's your the float bowl there. What I've done is I've put this little, people who know about engines will understand this, any water that's in there, rather than taking it all apart, you literally just crank that down like that and it drains out a little bit of fuel and stop it. So any water that will sink to the bottom gets drained straight into there, so you don't have to keep taking the float bowl apart. There's the choke. That's the air filter there, that's full of oil. It's an oil lubricated air filter, so any particles get caught in the oil. It's got the flywheel, it's got the first gearbox, second gearbox, and then final drive gearbox, and another one down there, final drive. Now if I remember, there is SAE 30 oil in that, SAE 50 in that, SAE 50 in this one, which feeds this one. So these are connected by a little hole for the oil to feed. And you've got SAE 140 gear oil in the final drive gears. Now the fuel tank is there under the seat, and there's the fuel cap. But what I did was, rather than having stale fuel, I made this little fuel tank that runs straight through to a filter there, the glass filter. I think that's out of a Morris Minor car, and then that goes all the way around to the fuel pump. It's here, there's your pump, and that pumps it straight into the float bowl and starts the engine. It's got forward, backwards, neutral, and in forwards and backwards you've got first gear, third and second, so it'll go 3 gears in forward, 3 gears in backwards, first, second and third. First is it will pull more, second it will go faster, third it will go a lot quicker. But if you want pure pulling power, you leave it in the first gear. This is who supplied it originally. I can't believe that was still on it. Incidentally, where I got this from, out of a barn, it sat there for years. A week after I recovered it, the local youths burnt the barn down, so I saved this by a week. It's got the extended tracks on it at the moment, which basically means these bits here push the tracks out, give it a little bit more width and a bit more stability. If you want to go thin mode, you can take these red bits off, push the tracks in parallel with that so they don't stick out, but I think it looks better with the tracks pulled out like that. Did an oil change on it yesterday. The oil, you can see the oil pump working when the engine's on in there. You see it pumping out of there, and I'll show you that in a minute, because what we're going to do is we're going to start it now. It's magneto driven, single piston. Now whatever you do, you don't put your hand on that when you've started it, otherwise you'll end up over there, because I put my hand on that and got such a shock, it was unreal. There's your throttle. So let's see it start. Now, I'm filming this on my own, so the first thing you do, shove the handle in there, but you have to check it's in neutral. If that's in first gear or reverse, you are not stopping it. There's your throttle, just give it a little bit of throttle. You can prime it. It takes about 50 primes, see the fuel going in. You can prime it, but to be honest, I've just driven it out here from where it lives. Turn the fuel on, again, temporary fuel tank. The real one is there, and I've even got the real one's fuel line coming in here, but I bypassed it and used this one, connected up to the small one, the small fuel tank. So that's, if you want to put it back to original, you can. You just put that one on it and fill it up with fuel. Let's see if we can get it started. Now I've got to hold the camera here. Choke, I'll leave the choke in the middle. If it's cold, you start it about there. If it still doesn't go, a little tip is you can pull this off and then start it and it will go. Once it's started, you put that on and you flick that down, and that's where you run it. So let's put it there. I'm just going to put this down for a second, so I need two hands. So stand by. Give it a prime. Take that off, as I said. The fuel's going on. So we've got fuel. We haven't. So quickly put some fuel in it. Doing all this one-handed. Just to stop it vibrating with other bits. Okay, so we'll click over. Right, so what we're going to do now, put it in, keep the revs low. First, on number one, a little bit of throttle. first gear, go into second. Third. When you go and turn, you want it on a low gear for turning, so put it back to number 1. Back into reverse. Now we can put it back into 3. Into first. It's an old girl, I like to keep it a little bit slower, don't like to overuse it. Sensitivity touch. I'm sure you know what that is. Red 5 has got a lot of fruit. A little bit quicker, going to 2. Neutral, get it to 1, switch the engine off, push that button. Now that TDC is top dead centre, in case you were wondering, but again, you'll know what that is. Turn the fuel off, and that is a little workhorse. I've pulled massive roots out with that. I've also pulled fence posts out in one with that. Massive fence posts, I've just pulled them straight out. It's like a little workhorse, really like it. These are oiling points here, and on the wheel, they're the 140 oil, the same oil that goes in here in the final drive. And that's it, that's my little Ransomes crawler set up with chains to pull things. It lives undercover, locked away now, and it's nice and safe with a 600cc single piston engine. Thanks for watching.